All right, we are live now.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening. Hopefully we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. I got them both selected here.
All right, I'll go make sure.
And yeah, I guess if anybody chats and you can answer them, I think I can see the chats from here. Here we go, comments. Yeah, here we go. All right. Well, welcome to Abnormal Alabama, Tuesday night, July 21st. And if you notice, well, I'm here with Catherine Marie. But if
hello, everyone.
And she's again in shadow.
Yes, we are live on Abnormal Alabama.
Okay, good. Yeah, I see we got a like out there. And I guess I'll share this later after we get done on all of my stuff. It should be archived later if you tune in late. But if you notice we're missing one, we're missing a really shiny fella here. Kelsey is out tonight because he had a little issue at his house. We had some lightning out here. You probably saw it too, Catherine. There was some bad lightning out here. Out here.
Turn my volume down.
Okay. We had good storm come through about 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock this afternoon. A lot of lightning and thunder, and Kelsey said that some lightning hit out there, I guess, and he doesn't have internet or phone service, landline service right now. So he's unable to join us. He might be watching later or on his cell phone. So I hope I do a good job on my own here tonight. And I'll go ahead and promote away. Go to abnormalalabama.com and also on YouTube, Abnormal Alabama. So you can join, subscribe, like, and be sure to hit that bell so you get notifications every time we go live here. And you can keep up with any events that might be going on. Of course, this year, 2020 has been a bust. So there are no real events going on this year, or at least not until late in the year. And I got a suspicion those are going to be bumped up as far as the fun, scary conventions we like to go to sometimes.
I know.
Yeah, there's one that Days of the Dead is still going to do. There's in Atlanta next month. I'd be too scared to go to Atlanta right now with all that corona.
Yeah, I'm terrified to get. I haven't even been out of the house but one time in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd be scared too.
It's it's a new novel thing. So, and Kelsey just said, "Go, Kevin."
Go, Kevin.
He must be watching us.
Yeah, he said he could, his cell phone, but he could access, but unfortunately there's no way to get on StreamYard for that, which that blows my mind. You think you'd work on a cell phone and a tablet, but no. But it's still a good service though. And I'm glad I got this.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I got this new computer now. I hope I'm looking normal and not freezing up and jerking. It kept the old computer kept freezing and delaying. So,
well, you got a much better computer now because you're moving. And is my voice freezing up or anything?
No, I can hear you playing.
If the dog gets to barking or anything, I'll have to mute me. But I won't be muted long.
Okay. Yeah, I close my door so the cat won't come climbing up in here on me. But there's a lot more room in this office than the old office. So, but without further ado, I thought I would try to continue where I left off last week with the U.S. urban legends. I had a list of scary or the best urban legends from all across the country, the top ones from each state. Now, this is a matter of opinion, whoever put this article together, because there are a lot of urban legends in each state. So each person might have their own idea of what the favorite legend would be there. But this is a pretty dang good list here. And I'm going to attempt to throw up some photos as we go. So last week, I was about to go to New Hampshire. And The story there is about the Watcher. Some of y'all may have heard this one. There's the house where it happened. This is in New Jersey. I'm sorry. New Jersey is where this one happened. And of course, the most known legend there, it seems like, is the Jersey Devil. But this other legend, of course, Jersey Devil has been around a long time. But in the last decade or so, another urban legend was born there in New Jersey and is pretty terrifying, and actually not just a legend. This actually happened, so they say. So what is the Watcher? All right, so the average New Jersey Devils fanboy is scarier than the obviously crazy legend of the Jersey Devil. And the Watcher, a legend that creeped its way to viral fame in 2015, is like a David Fincher movie breathed into horrifying life. If you don't know the details, in the summer of 2015, a young family moved into a $1 million house. $1 million house in Westfield, New Jersey. Soon after, they started getting letters signed by someone only IDing himself or herself as the Watcher, claiming, actually it was a male figure going by the letter, so it was a he, and he was claiming it was his duty to watch over the house, while also spouting crazy lines like, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested?" And "Who has the bedroom facing the street?" Wow. So needless to say, this family was scared to death when they started getting these letters. Now, is this a prank based off a weirdly accepted local legend? Was it a media hoax? A way to drive down real estate prices? It's impossible to know, but it's still very weird. And somebody is still sending letters to inhabitants of this house today. The debate and skepticism still burn in the creepiest corners of the internet, and while it's a fairly more recent legend, it's probably one of the scariest entries into the list of New Jersey urban legends. And again, this one isn't just a legend. This actually happened, so that's pretty dang freaky there. All right, I had accidentally skipped New Hampshire, so let me get back to that. The Cursed Isles of Shoals in New Hampshire. This one's kind of gory. The charming archipelago of Isles of Shoals off New Hampshire's eastern shore is the perfect destination for a seaside picnic or perhaps a series of brutal murders. 2 young women were horrifically butchered via the particularly creepy maniac with an axe method in the late 1870s. And apparently you can still hear them screaming, their ghostly cries, often late at night, which is just objectively unsettling. This specific island, Smutty Nose is what it's called, there's a good name, is said to be haunted by the ghosts, the axe murderer himself, along with pirates and a gang of other poltergeists. And come on, have you ever seen an abandoned old lighthouse in the fog? I'm sure it's got it there too. The islands have a history longer than the country they are in. Blackbeard himself was rumored to use the islands as a honeymoon destination and gold depository in the early 18th century. And naturally, he killed some people there along the way. By the time Louis Wagner murdered the women living on Smutty Nose, which is the axe murderer we talked about in the 1870s, there were already ghost stories about the haunting chain of islands. With history, pirates, and of course axe murders come creepy tales. And again, the abandoned lighthouses don't help. So if you're into daring adventures, go ahead and grab a boat and take a little trip out there to the islands and spend the night or two out there, and let's see what happens. All right, now we're going down to the southwest to New Mexico. And New Mexico has got a legend that pretty much just about everybody has heard about by now. This one is the Chupacabra, and there he is. Ugh. Simply put, it's a rabid beast that may or may not be the size of a bear, but definitely has spikes on its back and glowing eyes. It can fly if it wants, but it will definitely suck the blood out of your pets and family. And a ton of people think it's real, which is almost scarier.
I've seen
Anyone?
something like this.
Oh, and where did you see this?
Wilsonville, Alabama.
Oh,
We were coming home late one night, and Elizabeth was little, and it was standing in the middle of the road. I'm assuming it was a hairless dog with a mange, but it looked just like that.
man. Well, hey, even a hairless dog with mange in the nighttime, that's kind of creepy looking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of these yet. I've seen some hairless cats, but I haven't seen.
It kind of looks like a cross between a hairless cat and a dog.
Oh, was it small like a cat or bigger like a dog?
Bigger like a dog.
Oh, that might have been what it was. And Wilsonville ain't too far away.
Nope.
I wonder if there ever been any other sightings in Alabama of the Chupacabra.
I don't know. I felt sorry for it, so I went and bought it a bag of dog food.
You actually fed it?
Well, I took it back where I saw it and opened the bag of dog food and left it laying there.
I don't guess you saw it again, did you?
I did not see it again. But I know, crazy, huh?
Well, if it's a dog, I hope it's doing okay. But getting back to New Mexico, it says anyone who grew up in the Southwest knows about the legend of the Chupacabra. Down there, it's as big as Bigfoot. Even if people can't agree on what it looks like exactly, the first sighting happened in 1995 in Puerto Rico, and eyewitness accounts of the goat sucker, as it's called, or another name for it, have been a steady trope across Central America, reaching a heat in Mexico and the Southwest over the last 2 decades. New Mexico, in particular, has been the source of some notable chupa sightings. As recently as this summer, a treasure hunter claimed he found a genuine chupacabra skull in Las Vegas, New Mexico. So that's some creepy stuff. Now, Las Vegas, New Mexico. I thought that was in Nevada. Do we have 2 Las Vegases?
I guess we do.
I guess so.
I didn't know about the one in New Mexico.
I didn't know that either. I guess you learn something every day about this great country.
I wonder if it's like the Las Vegas in Nevada.
It might be. I don't know. Maybe they share a name. Oh, and speaking of creepy, well, we're about to get to a creepy cat story in just a second, but first we got to go up to New York. Up there in New York, there's a urban legend up there called the Montauk Project. The Montauk Project, if I'm saying that right, a series of alleged government experiments conducted in Montauk, Long Island in the early 1980s, reportedly served as one of the Duffer Brothers' main inspirations for Stranger Things. In fact, the original working title of that show was Montauk. So we're talking about psychological warfare, experimenting on children, opening portals to other dimensions, and various other nefarious government-funded creepiness. You've probably seen this on the show, and that's where the inspiration came from. While there were rumors circulating around shady government activity on the southeastern tip of Long Island for nearly a decade prior, the legend wasn't fully baked until the early 1990s when Peter B. Nichols, a parapsychologist and electrical engineer, helped pen the Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, which detailed a slew of salacious, repressed memories from his days working in Montauk. Corroborated by others, the book detailed time warps to Mars, genetic experiments, and 11-esque psychic child spies, like you see in Stranger Things, 11, that character in that show. The Montauk Project itself is said to be a piece of a larger psychological warfare conspiracy called the Philadelphia Experiment, which naturally inspired its own film too. Wow, so that's creepy to know that the Stranger Things show is actually based on an actual urban legend that might just be true.
I have never seen it.
I was about to say a lot of people probably go, oh, but I have never seen Stranger Things either.
I know it's on like Netflix or Hulu or one of those. I've thought about watching it. I just never have.
Yeah, it's out there on Netflix. I see it all the time, but I just have never watched it before.
Maybe we'll have to get some popcorn and watch it.
I think by now there's 4 or 5, maybe 5 seasons already. So there's a lot of catching up to do if you decide to watch it.
Binge watching.
And now we're getting to North Carolina, where we have the vampire cat of Bladdenboro. Take a look at this thing. It looks like somebody turned Tom from Tom and Jerry into a vampire / werewolf here.
Oh, yeah, with a raccoon tail.
Yeah, with a raccoon tail.
Poor Jerry. I wonder if he turned into a vampire too.
He might have. Vampire, mouse, and cat. That'd be.
That's what we're having for 2020. That's the next thing that we're going to go through. It's vampire cats and mice.
Oh.
I'm calling it.
I'm not surprised by anything. I'm waiting on the UFOs to land out here by now.
Maybe they'll come to save us.
All right. In North Carolina, known as the Beast of Glendora, it is creepy because it's a large, possibly vampiric cat beast that might also be part bear and will brutally murder your pets and or livestock and maybe even you when you aren't looking. Oh boy, there's a sobering thought. In 1954, a string of mysterious, gruesome deaths began to hit animals in and around Bladdenboro, North Carolina. Broken jaws, crushed heads, and even reports of blood completely drained from bodies. Eyewitness accounts varied, but seemed to point to something vaguely feline in nature, but also larger and more powerful. The beast made the national news, and there were multiple hunting parties that attempted to catch the beast. They never did, but the killings eventually stopped, at least for now. Man, they had a lot of creepy things back in the 50s. Even all those good old sci-fi movies came out back then with the giant bug and aliens and everything. I love to go back and watch those sometimes. But let's see what's next on the list here.
Can you
imagine what?
I said, can you imagine that big a cat?
Oh.
I mean, you know, a lion's pretty good size.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been up close to one, it's scary.
The closest I've gotten was at the zoo with glass between us.
Well, I got to one day experience them feeding the lions and doing their and we were like 2 foot from it. He was behind the bars, but he was we were like 2 foot from him, and they pinch them and stuff so like they can give them their vaccines and all that good stuff, and they train them. It was very interesting to watch, but a cat that size is scary in itself.
Yeah, it is.
Without it being a vampire cat.
Yeah. I've seen some pictures of people put online of holding these big giant cats that are just about bigger than they are. I don't know how they deal with that in their houses. I mean,
no, I don't either, because
crushed in my sleep.
I've got a cat here, Oreo, that she's so smart that we have to hide her food, and we had it in a cooler, and she opened the cooler today to get her cat food.
Oh,
I mean, she opened it up, took the lid off the cooler in order to get to her cat food.
good grief.
So they're not dumb animals either.
No, no, my cat in the morning, she'll come up to the door. I usually come out. I mean, I wake up about, my alarm is set for 7 since I'm working at home. I just have to walk in here and start working. But because of that, too, I get a little lazy in the morning, so I'll lounge around till about 8 o'clock and actually come out and start working. But if I don't come out by 8, she comes to that door and she starts shoving her paws under the crack and slapping the floor. Then she'll get up and start butting her head against the door. And I mean, it's time for me to come out. That's her way of letting me know. I guess that's her way of knocking, butting that head on the door.
She's like, I'm hungry, Daddy.
Yeah, I better come out and get those temptation treats.
Oh, yes.
All right, the next legend, we go back up to the north, and it's North Dakota, where they have the gates of hell. Abandoned towns are generally creepy, and North Dakota has an abundance of settlements that were all but abandoned after the railroad boom. Tagus, though, takes the cake due to the little fact that people believe that it once housed a Lutheran church that doubled as a hotbed for satanic worship. Legend is it burned down, but if you stand in just the right place, you can hear the screams of the damned bubbling up from hell itself. There are also reports of hellhounds, glowing gravestones, and a ghost train. Vandals and revelers have made the few people who call Tagus home very wary of visitors, and Lord knows that the combination of a rumored portal to hell and extremely unwelcoming locals in a small town is boilerplate horror movie fodder. But where the legend came from, the Satanism business dates back to the satanic panic of the 1980s, though Tagus has been spooky since its founding in 1900 and ever since the late 80s, when hundreds of high schoolers turned up for a vandalism intensive Halloween party and were run out of the ghost town. Visitors have been met with extreme skepticism since then, and I can understand why with vandals. The city's last church burned to the ground in 2001. And now I guess it's pretty much a ghost town. All right, this next story, we talked about this subject before, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this next legend has to do with Melon Heads. The Melon Heads in Ohio is the particular legend we're going to look at here. Melon Head sounds like something stale your granny might keep in her candy dish, but it's actually a legend about pale, sickly, genetically altered children with giant heads and razor-sharp teeth that simply love killing babies, and also you, as some of the stories go. So yeah, even much worse. Riffs on the tale also exist in Michigan and Connecticut, but the Ohioan case is particularly compelling. These melon heads are said to haunt the woods of Kirkland and are apparently the adopted children of an unscrupulous doctor who used the pre-melon heads to test new medical and surgical methods with not so great results. In some versions of the tale, the kids are more likely to scurry away like chipmunks than bite your head off if you come around. In others, they are just ghosts of the children who have long since passed. But one thing is certain, they definitely inspired one very campy, hyper-local horror movie. So there's apparently a horror movie out there about the Melon Heads, which I don't think I've watched yet. Although I did see a movie about a scientist and his failed experiments on children. They didn't have melon heads in there. But that
It
is a
sounds,
creepy looking. Huh?
it sounds like they're what they can call waterhead babies.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Maybe like he adopted those children, and I know they don't, if they don't have a shunt put in their head to drain the fluid off their brains, that they don't live very long. Kind of makes me wonder if he didn't adopt those type of children
Yeah, it just might be.
and maybe
Yeah,
try to save them.
I remember my grandmother using that term "waterhead baby." In fact, she knew of a couple in Pickens County back when she was a little girl, back in I guess the early 30s, that had a waterhead baby, and it didn't live long. So it's kind of
You
a
know,
sad thing.
now they put shunts in their heads and can drain the water off of their heads so that their brains. A lot of little people um, have too much fluid in their brains, around their brains, and they have to put shunts in.
Yeah.
So makes me wonder.
Yeah. Makes me wonder too. There might just be some truth to this here legend that we don't know about. All right. So what is next on this list? We go to Oklahoma and the Skirvin Hotel. The Skirvin Hotel. The place is basically Oklahoma's equivalent to the hotel from The Shining, a luxury hotel whose permanent residents include eternally crying babies, a ghost that likes to grope people in the shower, spirits that slam doors, and the ghost of the original owner's mistress, who allegedly died along with his illegitimate child, and who still walks the halls with a stroller. It's so prevalent that even the toughest of NBA players who stay at the posh hotel when in OKC often find themselves seeking alternate accommodations, and that's before the bed bugs even start biting. The hotel was built in 1911, and shortly thereafter, original owner Fred Scherubel was shot to death, but not before allegedly impregnating a maid who perished on the 10th floor. It's been downhill from there. Even a renovation in the early 90s didn't scrub the supernatural from the most haunted hotel in Oklahoma. The Skirvin Hotel. That sounds like a place to check out. I'm not sure if I have heard of that one before. Have you heard of that one?
I have not heard of that one, but it does sound. It's got an interesting name.
Yeah, Skirvin. I'm gonna have to check that out. Get some more information on that.
Sounds like a vacation.
Yeah. All right, and now we're going to move over to the crazy state of Oregon. They actually, now this is going to be kind of weird. They've actually got a mummy legend in Oregon, of all places.
They're in Egypt. Okay, I'm interested to hear this one.
The bandage, it's called the Bandage Man, actually. The Bandage Man of Cannon Beach. Far from the rooted in history scares of Portland's Shanghai tunnels, the Bandage Man haunts a lonely patch of decommissioned highway near the idyllic coastal town of Cannon Beach. Like many slightly pervy ghosts, he likes to mess with randy teenagers making out in their cars, though more sinister legends have him eating dogs, wandering the windswept roadside, and even jumping in the back of pickups and sedans, filling the car with the scent of rotting flesh as he hangs from the back. Ooh. The Bandage Man, most popularly a logger hacked up at the nearby mill, made his earliest documented appearance in the 50s. Here we go with the 50s again. And he was likely a spooky story told around beach bonfires.
They had some good drugs.
They what? I didn't hear what you said.
I said they had some good drugs back in the 50s.
Oh.
They had some good drugs back in the 50s.
I guess they did. All right. He was likely a spooky story told around beach bonfires by teens who were weaned on monster movies, thus the silly mummy-like roots of the legend. Still, after hearing that tale late at night, then retiring to the confines of a secluded road for a little third base action, it's a story that carries enough creepy weight to seriously kill the mood, which is why it's persisted for decades. The Bandage Man, that's a new one for me too.
I get it now. The parents were trying to keep their kids off of third base.
Nah, that's probably, yeah, that could be where that originated from. In fact, that reminds me of the Lover's Lane Hook story that started up back in I guess, the 40s. And parents used to tell that story to scare kids away from lovers' lanes.
They're so mean, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And then one person apparently in Texarkana took it way far. I don't know if you remember those the town that dreaded sundown in Texarkana. A man back, I guess it was the late 40s, actually went around shooting kids in Lover's Lane if he found them parked there. And he wore a mask, some kind of a sack mask over his head. And that was a big thing back then. They made a movie about it, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And they never did catch
is that. Is that the one that has the burlap sack over his head? Looks almost like a pumpkin.
Yeah.
I'm not up.
It definitely is a burlap bag they had pulled over his head, and his weapon of choice was a gun, although he did some stabbings as well. But he in the movie, I don't know if it's how he looked in real life, but in the movie he wore, I want to say it was dark blue work shirt and blue pants, and he wore that burlap bag over his head, and it was really creepy looking. And that was a good movie too. It's worth checking out.
And what was the name of it again?
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
I'll have to see if it's on Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, I don't know. I know if nothing else, I know it's out there on Prime Video for sure.
Okay, I have that too.
Now this next story comes from Pennsylvania. We're in the P, well, the only P we have, Pennsylvania. And this one is also actually a true story and kind of a sad one, I think. This is about Charley No Face. And that's an image of the real life Charley that this story originated around. According to the legend, after a tragic childhood accident, Charley No Face, aka the glowing green man, lost his face and turned radioactive, literally glowing a toxic green as he stalks western Pennsylvania highways at night. His main haunt is Piney Fork Tunnel, an abandoned freight tunnel in Hillsville. But if you seek him out, keep your foot on the accelerator. If he even manages to touch your car, the car just might stall out. Then you'll be hanging out with Charley No Face for the rest of your probably short life. Now, that's the creepy angle, but this actually was based on a real incident. Ray Robinson was a real man. As a child in 1919, he was severely electrocuted by a trolley wire while peering into a bird's nest, which practically, the electrocution practically melted and disfigured his entire face, as you can see there in that picture. As an adult, Robinson walked western Pennsylvania highways, Route 351 to be exact, but only at nighttime because his shocking visage garnered unwanted attention. His glowing appearance is likely due to the petroleum jelly that he needed to coat his damaged skin with, though those who knew him claim he was incredibly sweet, though profoundly isolated. And no, he has nothing to do with Pennsylvania's other green man, which I assume is some sort of an alien story. But that, to me, that's sad. Poor guy he could only go out at nighttime because of his face being distorted like that. And
Yeah.
and of course he's passed on a long time ago. But that, yeah, to me that's a sad story. It's hard to be scared of it, knowing there was a real person that had to live like that.
It doesn't look like he has eyes anymore. He could see, and
Yeah, he
how
apparently
would he?
I don't know. Apparently, he had some kind of sight. There's a lot of several pictures I saw out there. One of them was taken with a couple of his friends, and yeah, it looks like he has no eyes, but apparently he had some sort of sight. I don't know if he had film, if that's some kind of film that melted over his eyes from his forehead or something, but apparently he could see a little bit, enough to walk around.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. All right. The next story is called Mercy Brown. This one's in Rhode Island. Rhode Island's home to many a haunted house, including the one that inspired The Conjuring. But one legend you can experience without trespassing is the tale of Mercy Brown. It seemed that back in the day, Rhode Island was in the midst of a vampire panic, and its most famous victim was 19-year-old Mercy Brown. After her mother and sister died, Mercy succumbed to tuberculosis as well. Due to the panic, villagers presumed something supernatural was afoot. When they exhumed Mercy, her body was remarkably well preserved. So they removed her heart and liver, burned them down to ashes, and fed them to her sick brother. He died 2 months later. They say the spirit of Mercy, though, still haunts the cemetery of Exeter, where her gravesite remains a place where morbid tourists flock and where a chill hangs perpetually in the air. Historical fact, Mercy Brown died on January 17, 1892, and her cremated heart was force-fed to her brother. Ugh. Her story is the most famous of many similarly gruesome tales that stoke the fires of Rhode Island's haunted landscape. Now, I've heard this legend before, but I did not hear about her brother being force-fed the cremated heart. I wish
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, that is. I have not seen that part of the legend before. I'm going to see if I can find some more. I should have looked at
Now,
this.
I was watching My Strange Addiction the other day, and this lady was literally eating her husband's ashes.
Ew.
Yes.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Very.
Good grief.
And she was like halfway through them.
Was she just crazy, or?
I think she was mentally off. She was really upset about his death, and she accidentally opened the bag one day and got a taste of them, and from then on she started eating them, and she's like halfway through them now.
Daggone.
That's some love there, I guess.
I'll see. I know I couldn't do that. That's disgusting.
Yes, the thought.
Oh yeah. All right.
It's like eating your steak well done.
Yeah. All right. The next story we have here is, and I've heard this one several times, the Boo Hags of South Carolina. Boo Hags basically make traditional vampires seem like Robert Pattinson vampires. Boo Hags are skinless beings that creep into people's homes in the Low Country, climb on their chests for a ride, and gain vitality by sucking out their breath. These things also have a nasty habit of tearing off a victim's skin and wearing it to keep themselves warm, though they'll usually just leave you short of breath and tired. Boo Hags are a fixture of Gula or Geechee culture, prevalent in coastal Low Country areas populated by African American descendants of slavery. The creatures are among the most horrifying and unsettling among a rich folkloric history, yet seem tame when compared to the true atrocities of the region that birthed them. Wow. Now, I've got a story I shared on my podcast just a few weeks ago about the Boo Hag. And if there's time later, I just may share that story again here.
That sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Now, the next story. Now, we've heard of Uncle Sam, the semblance of the great US of A, but I don't know if this has anything to do with it. This one is called Walking Sam, and this comes from South Dakota. Walking Sam. A wave of suicides, 103 attempts as of December 2014 on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota is being attributed to the presence of the Walking Sam figure. Teenagers claim a slender, shadow-like spirit dubbed Walking Sam appears before them and commands them to kill themselves. The first wave occurred in 2013 when 5 members of the Oglala Sioux tribe killed themselves, and from there it continued to spiral until Oglala Sioux tribe Vice President Thomas Poorbear discovered photos on Facebook in 2015 depicting nooses hanging from trees, revealing plans behind a teenage group suicide. The specter archetype that Walking Sam is based on has roots starting with the good old-fashioned boogeyman and working all the way down to the Slender Man told me to do it folklore of 2008. Well, yeah, we've all heard of Slender Man in the recent years. The idea of shadow people is also a pretty old school urban legend going back further than history can care to track. However, the character of Walking Sam himself has existed among the Lakota and Dakota Native American tribes for some time now, with a record of him being described in Peter Matheson's book called In the Spirit of Crazy Horse back in 1980. Sometimes known as Stovepipe Hat Bigfoot or Takuhi, the character has been spotted by South Dakota Sioux and Little Eagle tribes as far back as 1974. And yeah, that does sound a lot like the Slender Man urban legend we've heard about, and that he likes to go around tricking teenagers into killing themselves or killing others. And that is some creepy.
Sounds a lot like him.
Yeah. And that is
Why does he always wear the top hat?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I don't know. It doesn't mention here in the description that he wore one. I wonder if somebody put that on there because they were thinking of Uncle Sam, who wears that American flag top hat. I don't know.
That could be.
Or maybe he's just a very debonair, evil spirit.
I know the one that I've seen hat on.
Oh, you've seen? Are you talking about a shadow person?
I was walking out to the car one night, and a shadow person, and it went behind the trees, and I think it was trying to scare me, and it scared me at first, startled me, and I just spoke up and said, "I'm not scared of you," and I walked over there to where it was, and there was nothing there.
Oh. I've seen some shadowy glimpses in my peripheral vision. I'm not sure if it was shadow people or just my imagination, but I've never seen one just directly, staring straight at one yet. And speaking of evil, shadowy things, the next story we have on here is the Bell Witch from Tennessee, just one of my favorite legends of all time. Simply the hauntings of one Tennessee family by some sort of spirit believed to be a witch ultimately attracted the attention and subsequent visit by soon-to-be president Andrew Jackson. And while Jackson, who allegedly was spoken to by the witch, got the heck out of Dodge, a cave near the site, believed to be a portal for the witch, remains a major tourist attraction in Adams, Tennessee today. Now, where it came from, probably from hell itself, but more factually, the haunting of the Bell family began in 1817 after the father, John Bell, witnessed some sort of rabbit-headed dog in his field and tried to shoot it. From that night on, the family experienced tappings on the doors and windows, sheets slowly being pulled off beds, and eventually the voice of a woman named Kate, who was family after years of torment. John Bell died in 1820, after which the family found a small vial of liquid near his deathbed. Kate, the Bell Witch, proudly proclaimed she gave John the poison that finished him off. And that's one of few, if not only, one of the few records on the books where a living person, was said to have been killed by a spirit. And to go with that, here's Kelsey's little video thing. I love that thing.
Which one?
This little video. The thing with the long hair climbing out of the TV. Looks like, what's her name? Samara from the Ring movies. All right, now we go to Texas for the black-eyed children. Scary movies constantly have people fearing old country back roads, abandoned homes, and kids popping out of cornfields. But the black-eyed children are known to be seen wandering around totally normal, non-threatening locales like Walmart parking lots and Sonic drive-ins. And worse, they're rumored to put their victims in a tight situation by starting out asking for something totally unsuspecting, like a ride home or some petty cash. The first documented case of the black-eyed children came in 1996 from reporter Brian Bethel, who had pulled his car into the parking lot of an Abilene movie theater to use the bright marquee light to write a check. While filling out the check, two young kids, who Bethel claims were between the ages of 9 and 12, approached the car, knocked on the window, and asked for a ride home to grab cash to come back for a movie. The children, who totally unnerved Bethel, claimed they didn't have a gun, which is a weird thing to say, before making eye contact and revealing coal black eyes that Bethel later described as the sort of eyes one sees these days on Aliens or bargain basement vampires on late night television. Those black-eyed children stories have crawled their way all the way across the United States by now, it seems like. I have not seen
it does.
one. Yeah.
I'm sure we have. I have not seen one of those.
I have not seen one yet, but I've sure heard a lot about them. All right, now we go to Utah, where they have the Escalante Petrified Forest Curse. Utah's legend is particularly troubling for tourists, as they might be taking the horror home with them, even if they escape the forest. With shocking regularity, visitors who have stolen chunks of petrified wood from Escalante Petrified Forest State Park will mail back their lifted souvenirs. All their letters detail a series of unfortunate events, from broken collarbones, arms, and ribs, to mysterious illnesses, horrific accidents, and financial ruin. The one thing they have in common is they all occurred after the victim illegally stole a piece of the forest. Many people have, and still do, mail back cursed pieces of the petrified wood, and the park even displays the letters and samples openly as an attraction. Apparently, there have been cases of stolen wood turning to bad luck since the 1930s, though it's unclear the actual root of the curse. Maybe it's the burden of moral ambiguity affecting other areas of life. Maybe it's just coincidence. Either way, it's not worth risking your collarbone by stealing a piece of bark from that forest. Yeah, I never, when I go in a place that's said to be haunted, cursed, anything, I don't ever take anything with me. Not like that.
Kelsey did one time. Kelsey picked up a brick one time from this place and took it home with him, and his boat sunk.
Oh, gosh. His boat sunk. Good, great.
Yeah, his houseboat sunk where he lived, and
oh, man.
So he blames it on the brick he picked up.
Man, that is horrible. I wonder, was he on the boat when it sank, or did it sank while he was gone?
It sank while he was gone. He was in the boat was in Tennessee, and he was in Alabama when it sank.
Well, at least there's that. But ooh, good grief.
Yeah, glad he wasn't on it.
Yeah.
Things can be replaced, but people's can't.
Nope, they can't. All right, up next we have Vermont and a story about the Hayden family curse. You know, a curse is serious when it takes down an entire lineage and still manages to bother people after everyone else is dead. William Hayden was a wealthy landowner in Albany, Vermont in the early 1800s, but he never repaid his even wealthier mother-in-law for loaning him some major funds over the years. After much complaining, she became mysteriously ill, accused William of poisoning her, and with her dying breath said, "The Hayden name shall die in the third generation, and the last to bear the name shall die in poverty." The Hayden family barely made it another 100 years after being plagued with financial catastrophes and illnesses. Phantom music, mysterious lights, and other assorted paranormal activity is said to haunt their estate in Albany, along with the ghost of a vengeful mother-in-law, too. She is really mad at this guy. In some versions, William Hayden was a Gatsby-esque party boy who quite knowingly blew all his mother-in-law's funds on lavish parties and ornate decorations for his home, building the family's local fame and infamy, which probably just fueled the rumor mill. And when all the Haydens died, a wealthy Canadian family moved in their mansion and allegedly used the home for bootlegging and smuggling Chinese immigrants for slave labor. So yeah, even if the curse isn't real, the house itself still has some dark history. And that is creepy stuff too. All right.
It all boils down to money, huh?
Uh-huh. The next one, I really get creeped out every time I hear about this little legend here. There have been several movies and shows based on it. This one is The Bunny Man and the Bunny Man Bridge in Virginia.
Never heard of it.
Oh, you hadn't heard of it? Oh,
No.
Oh, I first heard about this, I guess, 15 years ago. Let me go ahead and share the story here. The legend is fun to repeat at campfires, but the real sightings beyond the legend are some to give you nightmares. In 1970, there were numerous police reports of people who had been threatened by a man holding an axe, wearing a white suit with bunny ears. A few individuals reported that the man in the suit actually threw the axe at them for trespassing. To this day, there have been many sightings of dead rabbits appearing in the woods surrounding Fairfax Bridge, now known as the Bunny Man's Bridge, as well as a white figure appearing late at night underneath the bridge. Legend says that in 1904, a group of convicts were piled onto a bus to be transported from an asylum in Clifton, Virginia, to a nearby prison. En route, one of the buses crashed. The convicts managed to escape, and the police were able to round up all but one of the convicts. As their search went on, they began to find skinned, half-eaten bunnies in the woods and hanging from the overpass of Fairfax Bridge, now known as the Bunny Man Bridge. A year later, on Halloween night, several teens went to hang out under the bridge. Come morning, they were all found dead. It is said that if you hang out under the bridge on Halloween night, you will meet the same fate as the rabbits and the teenagers. So yeah, the version I heard was he was actually an escaped mental patient that they never captured, and the local authorities gave chase through the woods. They kind of were able to follow his trail because he kept leaving dead bunny rabbits hanging around.
So did he make his costume from the bunny rabbit fur?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that. In that part of the legend, he didn't wear a costume. They just called him that because of all the bunnies he had killed. In fact, he broke into a elementary school nearby in that same story and killed some bunnies that were in a cage inside one of the classrooms. So I guess he had a bunny fetish. But yeah, the idea of him wearing a bunny costume just makes it that much creepier. So
yeah, it does. Poor bunnies.
Especially in that picture, him walking down the road carrying an axe. That's pretty freaky stuff right there.
That is.
All righty. We're kind of coming, I've got a few more stories here to share, but we're kind of coming up on the midpoint now. So I'll go ahead and, where's this little video?
Very good.
Yeah. Abnormal Alabama. Be sure to check out abnormalalabama.com and come to Facebook for Abnormal Alabama. And like the page so you can keep up with it there. Go to the YouTube, Abnormal Alabama, and be sure to check that out. And I'll go ahead and throw up, and be sure if you go to the YouTube page to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And I'll go ahead and throw up Mr. Kelsey's book here, Dating the Dead by Dr. Kelsey Graham. Now, does he still has his website, datingthedead.com? Do you know?
He does, yes.
Good. So you can go there and find out. This book is on Amazon and I think Books A Million, all those places too, and on ebook. But you can get one autographed from Dr. Graham, just by, I guess, going to datingthedead.com or abnormalalabama.com and contact and get yourself a copy. And then here's my book, my last book that came out, Crimson, the Blood Painting, a novel based on an actual painting that I received from Salem, Massachusetts, the home of the witchcraft legends of the U.S. So, and the witch trials, all that creepy stuff. This painting dates back to the late 1800s and actually hung in the house of a practicing witch. And it's the painting of a lady in mourning, which is why she's wearing that black dress. And part of her face is in shadow there to add that creepiness, which I did for the cover of the book. But this novel, it's a fictional story based on the actual legend of the painting. And you can get that at myhauntedDolls.com. Be sure to check out myhauntedDolls.com. And I've got all my books there at the store. Or you can, if you want them autographed, go there and buy one. And I've got other things out there. There's even a children's book out there. So check that out. And got pictures if you want to buy an autographed picture. And this book, Crimson, is also available on audiobook performed by actress Lynn Thomas. So be sure to check that out. She does an amazing job. It's on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. And it's also, of course, on ebook and out there on Amazon, Books A Million. There's a lot of my books on Barnes and Noble too, if you like to shop there. But check out myhauntedDolls.com if you want to buy one directly from me, autographed. I'm on Facebook, My Haunted Dolls, and I'm also on YouTube. You can search by putting in My Haunted Dolls Kevin Kane. There's another My Haunted Dolls out there, so you have to put in my name now to pull it up, or just go to myhauntedDolls.com and go to the links page up there on the tabs, click on links, and I've got a link to my YouTube right there, to my channel, where you can look at my EVP sessions, spirit box sessions, and story videos that have to do with my haunted collection of dolls and paintings and such. So, all right, getting back to our stories here. Abnormal Alabama, the scary, some of the top urban legends. Each state, I've got one of the top urban legends of each state. And right now we've gotten to the state of Washington, where they have the 13 steps to hell. Basically the opposite of the Zeppelin song, the Maltbury Cemetery itself, the subject of rumors associating it with Satanism, is rumored to include a subterranean tomb for a really creepy rich family that could be accessed by 13 steps that led to their final resting place. Or the final resting place of every damned soul in history, as legend has it that descending the entire staircase led you to glimpse hell itself. The cemetery has been around since 1901, though the crypt itself, the date for it has been lost to time, as have the stairs themselves, which have been bulldozed and covered in concrete. So they are no more, but the legend lives. It hasn't stopped curious paranormal masochists from trespassing on the secluded private property, allegedly showing up at the cemetery at night, eager to unearth the staircase via nocturnal excavation missions, and being greeted by the cemetery's other apparitions. So it sounds like even without the steps to hell, the cemetery itself is still pretty creepy and maybe worth checking out if you're in that area in Washington. And
that
now
brings me back. I'm sorry, Kevin. That brings me back to the playground. When I was in elementary school, we had some of those giant tires, like big truck or tractor tires.
Yeah.
And as kids, a couple of them were standing straight up. And the biggest one, all the kids kept trying to dig it out because they said it had Stairway to Hell in it.
Oh.
We were some sick little kindergartners.
Oh, every elementary school, because of kids and their twisted imaginations.
I know.
Some kind of legend. In fact, when I was in elementary school in Adamsville, Alabama, where I grew up there in West Jefferson, there was a legend there at that school, even though the school building itself was built, I want to say, in the early 1980s. They moved the kids and the classes from the old building over to this new building. And there was nothing there on that plot of land, but that didn't stop, where the new building was built, but that didn't stop the kids from making up a story about it. They said in the boys' restroom, if you went to the last stall at the end of the restroom, beneath that stall, there was said to be the grave of a little girl who died on that ground, and she was buried there. Now, there was never a cemetery there, and that probably never happened, but the legend was if you go in there by yourself and close the door, and instead of sitting on the toilet, you stand with your back to the door and look down and count to 10, the toilet will disappear, and you'll see the grave of the little girl, and she'll jump out and grab you. So,
did you ever try it?
So there's some scary toilet horror story right there for you to enjoy.
It's kind of like looking in the mirror. What is it, Bloody Mary?
Yeah, Bloody Mary. There's another famous one. I wish that was on the list, but it's hard to narrow Bloody Mary down to one state because she's everywhere.
Everywhere.
All over the world.
Every mirror that's ever been produced.
Yeah. But this next legend we can narrow down, and it's one of the most famous top 10, maybe even number one legend of the United States. That is, let me get him up here. Where'd you go there, feller? I had you a minute ago. Uh-oh. I was going to introduce him, and he's gone. He's gone. Here we go. We'll get him up here. All right. That legend is the famous red-eyed Mothman. There he is. All right. The Mothman of West Virginia. The Mothman was introduced to West Virginia in 1966 with the best newspaper headline ever, which read, "Couples see man-sized bird creature." From there, residents all over West Virginia reported seeing the winged, human-like, red-eyed creature around the state, unsure if it was a demon, alien, or genetic experiment gone wrong. Even as recently as 2016, Mothman sightings have made the news, the actual news. The myth dates back to the initial newspaper piece, but the legend has been long propagated in pop culture, inspiring a horror novel and the subsequent Richard Gere film adaptation named after that, The Mothman Prophecies. In Point Pleasant, where the original incident was recorded, there's a Mothman Museum, a Mothman Festival, and a sizable statue. The Mothman has become big business, and if nothing else, he clearly paved the way for tabloid darling, Batchild. All right, the Mothman. Now, what was the name? It was the Silver Creek Bridge. Is that the name of it that collapsed in Point Pleasant, West Virginia?
I'm really not sure. Elizabeth's more the Mothman person.
Yeah.
And Joe Vitelli. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. He's more the Mothman person.
Yeah, it's called the Silver Bridge. That's what it is. And it was the deadliest bridge disaster in U.S. history, which happened, I believe, in 1967. And before that bridge collapsed, where I think 46 people, something like that, died in the river that day, or somewhere around that number. They claimed before that, just before that, there were a lot of Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant. So the belief was that Mothman must have been there trying to warn of the upcoming disaster. And he's been seen not long after that, many years and decades later, he's been seen before a lot of disasters. In fact, when September 11, 2001 happened, when the planes went into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon building, and then another one in Pennsylvania. That field in Pennsylvania, just 3 days before that happened, a man claimed he saw a Mothman flying over that field. And just 3 days later, that plane crashed there. So that's some pretty creepy stuff there.
That is.
So maybe he is what they call it, a harbinger of doom, coming around trying to warn you. There's another legend that relates to that. The Gray Man out in South Carolina. What is that island out there? I'm going to look the name up right now. The Gray Man sightings. Those have been around for over 100 years. I'll make sure I get the island right here. Pawleys Island off the coast of South Carolina. Now, he was said to be a man who died while he was riding horseback in that area back during the Civil War. He, I think, was returning to see his fiance, and he was thrown from his horse and broke his neck. And not long after his death, his ghost appeared to his sweetheart, his fiance, and told her she needed to leave the island because a hurricane was coming. And sure enough, of course, they packed up and left, and sure enough, the hurricane actually came and it damaged their home. So they claimed the Gray Man saved their life. And think I've got a little picture here of him if I can get him up here. That was taken off an episode of Unsolved Mysteries back in the day.
I think sometimes our people, our ancestors can come to us and forewarn us of things.
Yeah. Well, there have been many sightings of this thing, and there was a big hurricane back in I think in the 80s or late 70s, early 80s, when the hurricanes came through. This old couple that lived on Pawleys Island were walking along the beach, and they saw this grayish-looking man coming. He looked solid, but for some reason he had a grayish tint to him, and he was wearing these old clothes, like something that an old beggar might wear back in the late 1800s or around in there. And he came walking by them, and he never made eye contact. And the couple turned to look to see where he was going, and he vanished. Just poof, he was gone. And they were out on a wide open beach. There was nowhere for him to disappear to, but he did. And then they heard the news report of a hurricane coming toward Pawleys Island, so they packed up and fled. They knew they figured they'd seen the gray man out there, and he was warning them to leave. But what was really eerie is when they came back, after the hurricane left, they came back, and their house was the only house that had no damage to it on Pawleys Island from that hurricane.
Wow.
I mean, even to the point where the beach towels they had laying on the deck were not even blown off. They were still hanging there, which would be impossible in a major hurricane like that. So they think he not only warned them, but he spared their home. I'm not sure why he picked them out, but that was a story they showed on Unsolved Mysteries back in the late 1980s. I used to love that show, Robert Stack.
I did too.
But it's a shame that legend's not in here with South Carolina. But yeah, it's a good touching legend there. All right, we're going to get something I haven't heard of yet in Wisconsin. Something called the Rhinelander Hodag, if I'm saying that right. The Hodag is a small creature that is simultaneously a frightening demon and comically covered in spikes. It's often portrayed as being dog-sized, but early reports said it could grow to 6 feet long. A 1928 legend describes the Hodag as having the head of a frog, saber-toothed tiger-like fangs, thick legs with large claws, the back of a plated dinosaur, and a long tail with spears on the end. Despite its hellspawn swagger, it was never that much of a threat to humans outside of its powerful skunk perfumed stench. The Green Devil, as it's also known, was discovered in 1893 by developer Eugene Shepard and almost instantly became a fixture of North Wisconsin folklore. 3 years later, Shepard claimed he caught another and put it on display at the 1896 Oneida County Fair. He had knocked it out with chloroform, so of course it was sleeping, but he had wires hooked up to the fake animal to make it move occasionally. Word spread fast, and the Smithsonian sent a reporter to look into the Hodag. Shepard quickly admitted it was a fraud. Rhinelander never let go, though. It's the high school mascot, and there are multiple statues of the beast around town. So,
Oh my goodness.
so even though it's fake, apparently they still like to cling to that in that little town of Wisconsin there. It's their claim to fame.
Claim to fame. Yep.
That's cute.
They make statues of it.
I know. And last but not least on this list of U.S. urban legends, we come to Wyoming and the Platte River Ship of Death. Ooh. There are endless creepy tales in the wilds of Wyoming, among them a headless woman who haunts the lodge at Old Faithful. But the creepiest is also the most overlooked. A ghost ship that materialized out of a spectral fog on the Platte River. The cursed crew huddles on the deck of the old sailboat surrounding a body. If the onlooker persists in looking, the corpse of a still living loved one who will then die soon afterward. So this is another one of those spirits that foretells coming death or doom. The ship was first reportedly spotted in 1892 by a trapper named Leon Weber, whose girlfriend died shortly after he envisioned her on the cursed deck. Legend has it that the last documented sighting claimed the life of a lumberjack's friend back in 1903. There have been no official sightings since, though you could forgive people for getting the hell away from the river as soon as the fog rolls in. So if you ever visit Wyoming and the Platte River and you see a fog rolling in and a spectral ship, do not stare at it for long. If you don't want to see a loved one die, you better look away, look away. All right, that is the end of the list.
End of the list. We made it through all 50 states.
Yeah, we did.
What was your favorite one?
God, well, there's a couple of them there. I love that Bunny Man story. That just creeps me out. That guy running around with the axe. That one has creeped me out. The Watcher story has creeped me out about the people getting those letters, because that actually happened, and apparently it's still happening. And but the rest of them, yeah. Oh, of course, Mothman. Don't forget him. I've always been interested by that, and I've seen that movie. I haven't read the book, but I've seen that movie, The Mothman Prophecies. I've got it on DVD. I saw it in the theater when it came out in 2003, and then I bought the DVD and have watched it several times, and it just gets better and better every time I see it. It's a hell of a movie. I'll just go ahead and say it. So be sure to chat. Have you seen the Mothman Prophecies movie yet?
I have not. I have only recently started watching movies again. I've not been a big TV or moviegoer person, and so I haven't seen a lot of movies. It wasn't a big thing when I was a kid to watch TV or movies. We were always outside playing or doing whatever, so I kind of grew up without having much television. And like on Saturday mornings, we watched the Smurfs, and that was our show that we always made sure we watched. And then I would watch sometimes Unsolved Mysteries with my grandmother, and what was the one, Adam Walsh, his dad.
Yeah. America's Most Wanted.
Yes, I would watch that one with my mom or my grandmother.
Yeah.
And Daddy he would watch Star Trek. And I've seen all those, and Planet of the Apes, and seen some of those shows, but I wasn't a big TV person. And now to go to sleep, I stream Andy Griffith every night. I know, crazy, huh? And I did try to watch the Twilight Zone. Those are to fall asleep, but those kind of gave me dreams that were really weird. So
I would imagine so.
One I do remember I used to have nightmares about is Daddy or Mother one. We were watching Twilight Zone, I believe it was, and the guy was paralyzed, everything but his thumb, and they couldn't tell he was breathing or any of that, and they were going to embalm him and bury him, and that kind of freaked me out. So can you imagine being embalmed alive?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Because that's kind of a gross thing.
Yeah.
Because they pump all your blood out and pump this fluid in, and it being done to you while you're alive.
Uh-huh.
And of course, working on the ambulance over the years, you get all these scary thoughts in your head because, you have a lot of people die in the back of your ambulance. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And you do body totes and stuff like that. And of course, your imagination as you're driving down the road in the middle of the night with a dead body in the back of your vehicle, taking it to the morgue, you can imagine how your imagination can get away with you.
Yeah.
And did have one instance of a body sitting up on us in the back of the ambulance. That kind of scared my partner to death, and they were riding in the back, and they wound up coming up to the front really quick. And there's a door between the front and the back of the ambulance, and they slammed it shut really good and locked it. That was hilarious. But that was a quick trip to the morgue that night. But I can imagine all of our imaginations getting away with us because we don't know about death and what's happens to you, for sure on the other side. And I imagine that all of us are curious and we all have our own interpretation of it.
Yeah. All right. So now you said earlier you wanted to talk about haunted items for a little while.
I do.
Good old haunted dolls.
A lot of items, that come to you are haunted. And
yeah,
people don't always own that item. And spirits just kind of take over certain items. Do you believe there's a way that you can invite a spirit into taking over an item to leave a place?
I have not personally done it, but I have heard people say that they have done that. They've taken a doll that did not have, and it's usually sensitive people who can pick up on whether an item is haunted or not, so they can make sure that they're not overcrowding an item that's already, being used. But they'll take an item that's not haunted, no attachments, into a haunted place, or if they have a ghost in their own home, and they'll invite it to, use that doll or whatever item they have as its vessel. And they've had success with that. Not long after, they were starting to get K2 meter hits every time they held the K2 meter up to the doll or item. So that to them showed that apparently the spirit had accepted the invitation and attached itself. On the negative side of that, I've heard that demons can impersonate good spirits, and I think that was Lorraine Warren's idea of the Annabelle doll. She thinks that, well, actually the nurses did say that they had a little girl spirit in their home, in their apartment, and at first they thought it was a sweet little spirit that would move things around, and they brought in a psychic to their home who claimed that she picked up on a spirit of a little girl. And so they invited the little girl, who said her name was Annabelle, to attach to that doll because she really liked the doll. And she did, but then the doll started attacking, and they started getting scratches, while they were asleep at night, and crazy notes around their house saying, "Play with me," and stuff like that. And so Lorraine Warren believed that was a demon that impersonated the spirit of a little girl to trick them into letting it use that doll as an attachment, to invite it. So I'd be very careful doing stuff like that.
Well, the other night, we were at the house, and Elizabeth had put some clothes in the dryer, but she didn't turn it on yet. And she comes back in the living room, and she goes back into the utility room, and she's like, "Mom, did you turn the dryer on?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, the dryer's turned on by itself."
Oh, God.
So she now thinks we have a spirit in the house.
Yeah.
Could be some of those dolls.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It could be some of my dolls, or my chair, or I see all your baby.
Yeah, there's a picture of my big old, and that's just part of it. There's more around that room there. So I've got a lot, and then there's some in my bedroom. For those out there who haven't seen pictures of inside my house yet. In fact, I can put up some pictures here. I've been collecting these boogers since 2013.
Wow.
And really, I mean, there are a lot of them that I have found really do have some kind of attachment. There's several of them that I would say do not have an attachment because I've never gotten any activity off of them. And though I've tried, I never get anything out of them. And spirit box sessions and things like that. But the ones that I have had attachments to, they always do something. They'll either set off the K2 meter. I pick up intelligent responses from the spirit box, and there's some more of them right there on a shelf there, on a couple of shelves there. But they're really good with responding. And one thing I definitely want to do, I want to share this photo right here in just a second. People might recognize this lovely lady, the nun, with some of my dolls surrounding her. That's up on the top shelf in my den. I got that on eBay from a guy who has been making replicas of those. I think he was licensed to do it, as well as some other conjuring items out there. Like I think and I think it's from the movie It, that painting of the twisted lady in the movie It. He's done some replicas of that. And so that's pretty creepy. But,
that is pretty creepy.
But he does a pretty good job out there. And there got to be so many dolls, I was afraid I wasn't going to have room for all of them. So I had to pick up a case for some of them. And there they are there in the case. But that helps to make room in my house.
Which one is your most haunted? I mean, that you get the most out of?
Oh, man, there's a few of them. Gosh, I've gotten... let's see, let me think back. I think the most activity there's a couple of them I've had a lot of activity from. There's some beauties right there. But let me pull up a picture of one of them. One of them I got a lot of activity of was Tammy. And I'm going to find her picture here in my bedroom so I can show that off. Let's see here. Here she is. All righty, I got her coming. This is a picture in my bedroom. I took in my bedroom of some of the dolls in there. There we go. Up on the dresser there and on the old sewing table there. But up on that dresser, up against the wall, the second one from the back there with the little braids and kind of a checkered dress on, that's Tammy. Her story was that she was from St. Louis and she actually owned that doll. Her stepfather gave it to her, and it was her favorite doll. She had two stepsisters, older stepsisters, teenagers from her stepdad's prior marriage. They did not like Tammy. And one night while they were babysitting her and the parents were out, Tammy was about to get her bath, and the sister snuck in and decided to play a prank on her. They grabbed her and started dunking her in the tub to scare her, but they accidentally held her down too long at one point, and they accidentally drowned her. And after that, the family claimed Tammy's spirit was seen and heard around that doll that she loved so much. So And they said they'd have a lot of activity in the bathroom. People who had the doll later, other family members, and then paranormal investigators who had it. My good friend AJ, who I got the doll from, she had Tammy's doll for a long time and said she always had activity in her bathroom. And she sent Tammy to live with me. And it wasn't long after I got the doll that I would hear at night, I would hear the cabinet doors opening and closing in the bathroom. There were times when she would turn the water faucet on and off. In fact, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with that faucet on, and I thought, in the master bathroom there, I thought the cat had done it until I sat up and realized the cat was laying asleep next to me on the bed. So it definitely was not her. And one night I set a recorder in there in the bathroom, a voice recorder, to see what I would catch. And the next morning when I played it back, you could hear a little girl's voice when I say, "Good night, Tammy, I love you." You hear a little girl's voice say, "Daddy," in the bathroom. And you can even hear the acoustics of it. You can tell it's coming from the bathroom. So, wow. And that's out there on my YouTube channel. I think it's Tammy EVP. Yeah, My Haunted Dolls, Kevin Kane out there on YouTube, or go to myhauntedolls.com to the links tab, and you can find the link to my YouTube and see that, hear that EVP out there. But yeah, I think she has been active, and Robin was the little chatty baby in the blue dress sitting on top of the dresser there. She does a lot of her eyes have been seen moving on their own, and she does a lot of spirit box responses, really clear ones. And those are out there on my YouTube. So I actually heard her little footsteps a lot of times in my hallway at the old house. And one night I was doing an EVP session with her and asked her, I heard her little footsteps, and I asked her, if that's her, because I had her doll right there with me. I said, "Robin, if that's you, can I please take your picture?" And I looked into the hallway with the camera and I snapped it. I didn't see anything in the hallway, but when I looked at the camera on the display on the back, I immediately saw this little wispy white apparition. It looks like a little girl in a white dress hurrying down the hallway. And this is a small little girl who looks around the age of 4, or 3, which is how old Robin used to or was when she passed away. And I was trying to see if I could pull up a picture of that ghost that I caught in my hallway. I'm scrolling down my Facebook right now to find that so I can share it. Aha, here she is. Let me get her up here. I'm going to show the picture right now. I don't think I've ever showed this picture on Abnormal Alabama. I might have.
I don't remember seeing it.
But I'm going to show it right now since I get her pulling up here. There she is. It looks like there's no feet, but you can see a white dress there, kind of bushing out, and up top, some people say they can see her hair. I can see a little bit of a face and hair on top.
I see hair.
Yeah. But she is definitely see-through. You can tell that. That's the wall of the hallway behind, and the door that led into my office at that old house.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then another, and I better not forget these little lovely ladies, because if I do, they might come and pop me upside the head. Let me flash them up here. They're kind of creepy looking. These are the witch dolls. Anne and Alice. Let me get them up here. From Shropshire, England, all the way from the UK. In fact, a paranormal investigator there originally owned them. They used to belong to a practicing witch in the 1980s. And one day she was found in her house, apparently died from fright. And these dolls were in the house, and the investigator took them. In fact, it's the same lady who owned that haunted doll, Peggy. I'm not sure if you've heard of Peggy.
Yeah.
It was her owner who actually owned these two dolls, Anne and Alice. They were sent to a demonologist in Australia, so they've been all around the world by now. And it was that demonologist that befriended me, and actually the first female demonologist I'd ever met. And she sent them to me. It actually surprised me. In fact, she was sending another doll to me. And I get the box, and with the doll are these two creepy ladies, Anne and Alice. And the reason they're painted up like they are is because the witch tried to use them as revenge dolls, but they would not do her bidding. So, but they have been very active in my house. I know back at the old house, whenever I'd have a lot of people over, the lights would start going on and off in different parts of the house. The TV would go on the fritz. And the lady in Australia warned me that they like to play with electricity and K2 meters. So it didn't surprise me. I've gotten them clearly from the spirit box all the way down to their little British accents, which are adorable. And they love my cat. I know that. But yeah, they've caused some electrical malfunctions in the old house whenever I'd have a big group over. In fact, one of those times I was having a party back, I guess 2017, around in there, 16. One of my guests, her husband was there, and he was an electrician. And he thought he was, I can find that problem. That ain't no ghost. And he went in the garage where the fuse box was. He couldn't find anything wrong. He checked the outlet. He couldn't find anything wrong. He looked all over. He could not find anything wrong. So I said, yep, that's Ann and Alice. So they probably are the most active as far as physical things happening in my house. They've done a lot.
Now that you've moved, are they becoming more active now that they're getting settled? Or
Ann and Alice, I'm not sure, but I haven't heard from them just yet. But I know after I finally got every doll in here, that's when the first week or so it anteed up. There were footsteps when my dad would be in bed already. He goes to bed usually about 9 o'clock, and my brother goes out to the cottage behind the house. He sleeps there. So I'm basically the only one awake in here, and I'll hear little footsteps out in the living room. I usually watch TV in my den, so the light in the living room is off. Nobody's in there, and I'll hear little footsteps, and I'll hear a chair moving because we have a dining table in there. You can hear the chair move. And it's not the cat because she's sitting right there next to me on the couch. And I've heard little voices talking really softly. And I've heard the kitchen cabinets open and shut. And some of the dishes kind of move around on their own inside the cabinets. And there are no rats around here. That was the first thing I wanted. But we've got a cat inside. We got a cat outside. So we're double protected from rats and mice. Not to mention we have an exterminator that comes every month, but yeah, I've not been able to find an explanation for those sounds.
Well, what about your dad? Has he experienced any, or is he just kind of ignore it?
If he has, he's ignored it. He still doesn't believe in it. He thinks if there is anything, it's probably a demon. So I don't think he believes in human spirits, but he thinks it's either angels or demons. And that's understandable with a Christian, upbringing. But I believe that there can be human spirits in there too, as well, kind of in the mix there. I think they kind of come and go from whatever plane they go to, in between worlds.
Yep.
And a lot of spirit. When people say they've seen ghosts, a lot of them tell about how it's not the ghost. It doesn't acknowledge them, but it's like it's on a mission, like. Say, they might see the ghost of a chef in a kitchen, like he's still cooking, or a maid, spirit of a maid bustling around a house, like she's still looking for places to clean. So it's almost like, I guess you call it residual haunting. It, energy from the past repeating itself.
Yeah, I got a picture. Somebody sent me a picture one day. She was complaining that her house was haunted,
Oh,
and she sent me this picture, and it was an older home, and I kept getting wheelchair polio,
oh
and
yeah.
polio, yes, and there was no wheelchair ramp or anything like that at there, so had no idea, and I said somebody's not died there, but I keep getting this, and she said the guy that lived in the house before her that she bought it from had polio.
Oh wow.
And I was like, okay, so I guess even though he's still alive, his his self left some residual energy there.
Oh, I believe that's possible.
And so I think that people leave energy that we don't realize we leave with items.
Yeah.
And places, and I like to go over to all my ancestors are buried over there by Liberty Park where the
uh,
statue is. If you
yeah.
walk out if you walk out to the Statue of Liberty over down there, you can see a bunch of rocks and stuff. All my Native American ancestors are buried there.
Oh,
And I like to go up there and meditate. And sometimes I feel like I can feel them talking to me and guiding me.
yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a few years since I've been up there, but um, maybe I need to go back. Um, but I feel like they're guiding me and can tell me what I need to hear.
Yeah.
And you have a story that you told me one time about when you were a kid at a school.
Yeah, that was the first time. It might be I don't know if it's the only time. Well, probably not the only time, but the first time that and the only one I remember when I saw a full bodied apparition. And that was at a school out there. I don't know if I should say the name because I might tick somebody off, but it was out at one of the elementary schools out in West Jefferson that my godmother used to teach at. And this was back before I was even in school. I was 4 years old, and that's when, it seemed like when I was really young child is when I mostly got, I saw solid apparitions. I saw a few wispy ones as the years passed. They would be more wispy when I see them, and now I don't really get as good a glimpse as I used to. In my mind, I can get a visualization of them sometimes if they're wanting to communicate, but physically seeing them, yeah, when I was really little, ooh. But yeah, this was a freaky story, and most people don't remember what happened when they were 4 years old, but I will never forget this as long as I live. I still remember it like it was yesterday, as they say. But it was during the summertime, and normally I would stay with my grandmother during the summers when my parents were at work. And I'm not sure where my brother and sister were. I think they were in RAs and GAs, which were these uh, groups for the kids at school, at church, at our local Baptist church. And they would go off to camps and things. I think they were going to camp or something, or they were going somewhere. It was just me. So I went with my godmother to stay with her because my grandmother wasn't feeling good that day. So I stayed with my godmother, and being an elementary school teacher, she was a kindergarten teacher. Sometimes they're called in for teacher work days. And this was one of those days that she had to go in, do a little bit of work. So we were at her house that morning, and we were just going to go over there to the school for an hour or two for her to get some work done. And being a kindergarten teacher, she had toys in her classroom, of course. The whole corner was just full of toys and these shelves with toys on them, dolls and things. And there was this big toy castle she had in her room that was really awesome. That was big enough for a kid to sit in and play with. We got to her classroom, and the first thing I see when I look in is a little girl over there in that play area, peeking up over the castle and smiling. And my godmother pointed and said, go over there and play with the toys. I'm going to have to go to the workroom for a little while. Now, my godmother is just one of the biggest sweets in our life, and she would not introduce, she would not go without introducing people. When I look back, I realize if this was real, she would have introduced me to this girl, but she didn't even acknowledge the girl when we walked in the room, which was strange. So she left, and there I am in the room with this little girl who's peeking up over the castle and smiling and giggling. And I decided to go over there and play with her, but I was always kind of really shy back then. So it'd take me a few minutes to warm up and go, join the other kids. I'd have to ease myself into the play. But I was easing over toward that direction, and she was smiling and playing with the castle, moving the little figures around and giggling. And I got right up to the castle, and she hopped up from where she was sitting and just started laughing and ran out across the classroom, out the door into the hallway. So I ran to the doorway and looked out, and I saw her go all the way to the end of the hallway. She stopped at the end and looked left and right, go left, and darted off, disappeared. So there I am by myself, and I just started doing like any other 4-year-old. I just threw my head back and started screaming, scream for my godmother. Another teacher came and said, "What's going on? What are you screaming about?" I said, "Where's Bunny?" That was my godmother's name. She said, "Well, she's in the workroom. I'll go get her. Just stop screaming." So she went and got Bunny and brought her back. And Bunny said, "What is the matter? What are you screaming about?" I said, "That little girl left me all alone." And Bunny and the teacher looked at each other, and she looked back at me and said, "What little girl?" I said, "The little girl playing with the toys." And Bunny looked at the teacher and said, "Did you bring a little girl up here?" And she said, "No, there's no kids up here except for him." So I cannot bring that up around her to this day because it creeps her out. But I heard later on that there was a legend at that school that years before, I think that school had been around for a long time, maybe even back to the 30s or 40s. But apparently around the 60s, maybe early 70s, a little girl had died on the playground, fell and broke her neck. It was just a tragic accident, But they claim that her little spirit had been seen on the playground and in the school playing around. And it became an urban legend, but I can say there must be some truth because I saw a little girl there as plain as day and solid as could be. And the other scary thing is when I told them where she went, I said she ran to the end of the hall and went to the left. The other teacher said, "That's a dead end down there. There's nothing down there but a closet, and it's locked." So that little girl ran through a closed, locked door and disappeared.
Wow.
But I will never forget that.
I was 3 or 4. I was young, and I went to daycare. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, so I went to daycare, and one of my best friends passed away in a car accident. And for a long time, me and my other best friend, we were the Three Musketeers. We played with him after he died. Like, he was there with us and played with us forever. And his brother and he would cry often because he's like, "I miss my mom," and we didn't understand why he was crying. Well, his mom and dad came back one day, and he brought his brother back to daycare, and he went home with his mom and dad, and we never saw him again. I mean, like,
Wow.
do you remember those? Do you remember those big wooden boats that they used to have at church and daycares and kindergarten that kids would sit on one side and they'd rock back and forth?
Yeah.
I can remember to this day the 3 of us rocking in that boat, and I was probably 4, between 3 and 5, because quit going to you went to kindergarten when you turned 5. But so I had to have been 3 or 4. but I remember us playing. And my friend to this day, we will sometimes talk about it when we see each other. But that
Amazing.
was my first experience that I remember. And then another experience that I had was, and I insisted for years and years and years that I have a brother, and I could point you out the house that he lived in. I could tell you about the house, that the inside of the house. I could tell you about the mother. I could tell you about the father, and I could tell you a lot about the brother, more about the brother. And mother stopped one day. I mean, I could tell you details about the house being a kid, and I'd never been in the house. And mother was just shocked as I'll get out, because when she knocked on the door one day to prove me wrong that I didn't have a brother that lived there, all the details that I gave her were so accurate, and they had lost a little girl around the time I was born.
Wow.
So it's still kind of freaky. And I remember so much of the brother, and my mom and grandmother thought I was crazy, you know, just always talking about my brother
Yeah.
that lived in that house there. And it's not like it's a house that we went by every day. It was a house that we occasionally, when we went to Century Plaza Mall, I think it was, that we would have to pass to go there. And it's not like we went every day, but every time we went by that house, I would say, "That's where my brother lives." So some strange things as a kid.
Yeah.
And do you ever have deja vu moments?
Yeah, I've had a few. In fact, I've had a few times when something would happen and I would realize, I had a dream about this exact thing 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, I've had some deja vu times.
Those are high up on my list. I have such vivid dreams, and most of the time I can remember them, and I'm supposed to be writing them down. Sorry, frankly, I'm not. um, but they're so vivid, and I freak Kelsey out sometimes, because we'll be going down the road and I'll just go into, I don't know what it is. I'll tell him, "Hey, there's going to be, let's say, a train wreck." Tell him the number of cars, and, you know, if anybody's hurt or anything like that. And he'll get on the news in the next couple of days and he'll go, "You had it down to a T. Why didn't we record it?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I
Eh,
don't know why. I don't know why we don't record some of the things I come up with." Um, One time, mom was going to Texas, and I was freaking out because she was flying, and I didn't want her to fly, but she went ahead and flew anyway. And I said, "Mama, there's going to be a plane crash, but it's a military plane." And the day that she came back from Texas, there was a plane that crashed, that was an old military plane that somebody had converted into a passenger plane.
oh,
And so I guess I was being scared from that. I mean, it was just so vivid, and the fact that mother could have been hurt.
yeah. I can
And
imagine that.
I'm never allowed to say I think about somebody off the top of my head, because they usually die.
Oh gosh.
It's
Well,
really weird.
don't think of me on the
It,
top of your head.
it's really weird. I guess it's synchronicity or something, but
Yeah,
say an old teacher or something that just suddenly pops into my head, something that they did back in high school or something,
yeah.
and I'll think about it, and they'll come in the next few days they'll be dead.
Oh gosh.
So I try not to think about people.
Well, looks like we're coming up to the top of the hour. So this has been a pretty good. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go for 2 solid hours, but I did.
I know Kelsey's kept me quiet for so long. He asked if we missed him. He'll say, "I haven't ever heard you talk this much on TV."
I did a lot of talking too, though. There,
I know. I'm usually the quiet one.
I know. Well, he. It's hard to get a word in edgewise. But good old Kelsey. But anybody tuned in late, he couldn't be here tonight because we had some bad storms in this area earlier today, and apparently knocked out his internet, so he's not able to get on. So I hope we kept some good company here. I think we did a pretty good job.
I think we did a good job. I think I slept through those storms, though.
Yeah, I worked through it. Well, I did get off the computer a little while, and it was lunchtime anyway, but it passed over within 30 minutes, I think. It wasn't here too long, but it was bad lightning.
Since this coronavirus thing, I've kind of got my days and nights mixed up a little bit. I've kind of been sleeping all day and staying up all night. But that's when I'm a night owl anyway. I always have been.
Yeah.
And that's when I get a lot of my work done is at night. And to me, it's cooler and easier for me to work my butt off at night than in the daytime, and I can sleep when it's hot. So how long are you going to be working from home?
Probably till, they said maybe September, but I wouldn't doubt if we spend the rest of the year working at home. We'll see. They keep putting it off.
Well, it's a good option that you've got that option.
Yeah. It's a lot safer.
It is. And you're wearing a mask when you go out?
Yeah, I've got my mask in my car there, and then I have to try to remember if I ride with my dad somewhere. I'm running around, let me grab that mask, especially, since we have to wear one now in Alabama. So I try
to get one too.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of masks, so he's not going. he's not doing without. And my brother's got his masks too, so we're okay on that.
Good.
But we are at the end of the show now, so I'm going to go ahead and say once again, abnormalalabama.com. In fact, let me throw his little clip back up here again. There we go. abnormalalabama.com. myhauntedolls.com. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, so be sure to check us out. And tune in next Tuesday. Hopefully Kelsey will be back, and we can come back to you with some more creepy tales and legends, whatever we can dig up. So thank you for tuning in, and have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.